Well, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin-yang, come along.
Hey, come on along and welcome aboard to the Indiana Sports Beat Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by Andy Moore Honda, of course, here on this Tuesday. Kevin Brockway from CNHI is with us, Jim Coyle as well. Hope you're having a great start to your day. Kevin, how's it going there, Mr. Nets, Jets, and the Mets?
Good. Hey, kind of a rainy, gloomy Tuesday here. It looks like Seattle a little bit, not Indiana, but I guess that's April flowers bring May showers, or April showers bring May flowers, or something like that.
There you go.
Yeah, but it's May, and it looks
well, we didn't have any April showers. April was very calm. I was talking about how calm that April was, and May has been kind of a lioness, but that's okay. You got to get through it, but yeah, you're right. It's greened up out there. Let's let it keep greening up and growing up, and we'll get through it. But lots going on as the draft completes itself, and now the aftermath of the draft as tons of free agents get signed, and that's where a lot of people find jobs, Kevin.
Yeah, I think Jerome Johnson is going to be an interesting guy because he goes to the Dolphins, defensive tackle, all first team, DT, and I think he might have a shot there. I think and they signed him relatively quickly right after the draft. And Stevie Scott down in New Orleans, that's an interesting fit there. And certainly a good offense with Sean Payton. Drew Brees is retired, but with Alvin Kamara, he could be kind of that big back complement to Kamara if he has a good camp. So you never know. Harry Kreider with the Eagles, Wap Fillier up in Minnesota, which bears watching because he's a speed guy, and then Jovan Swan has a tryout with the Steelers.
Well, look forward to see it. Hoping good luck for all those guys, and we'll see how that falls in. But a lot of process goes through that. But those teams sign a lot of guys, and even Jamar Johnson, who was drafted, but he was drafted into a situation to where it's not there's going to be competition because I think they drafted two guys back to back in his position.
Yeah, Stearns, the guy from Texas, and he was asked about that on the Zoom call, but. I think Jamar is kind of, he could probably make a niche for himself as a guy that, almost like a nickel corner, a guy that can cover guys in the spot a little bit, and probably a guy that can contribute on special teams too. I mean, I think that's the key for all these guys is if they can show some acumen on special teams. Wap, who, as we saw, was not the greatest punt returner at Indiana, but certainly has the speed to be able to contribute on special teams somewhere too. I mean, maybe he could be a gunner. You never know to start out. So it's just a matter of, finding your opportunity and taking advantage of it. And, we'll see. Training camp is always big. Of course, the fall camp is always a big opportunity as well for these guys to kind of come in there. And if they show the right attitude, we see that every year at Hard Knocks, right? With regards to that.
Yep, looking forward to it. The NFL is unlike any other sport from the draft forward. Really, think about it. You don't have the colleges are the farm systems basically, but it's the truth. They tried to make the G League, but that's never gonna. I don't know if that's ever gonna fly. But anyway, and it is just football is such a boy, it takes longer. That's why you have to stay in school longer. The requirement you've got to be a sophomore or a junior or 3 years out of high school before you can even enter the NFL draft. You're always projected. You don't expect rookies to play a lot in the NFL, other than maybe some skill positions where overall speed can get the job done. But man, it's just one of those like no other, a sport like no other, that it really there's probably more data even than baseball that goes into stuff that they look at, and it's just crazy. But man, oh man, it's a scientific. All sports have become a scientific game of sorts.
Yeah, and it's so funny when you listen to these draft analysts, foot speed and hip speed, and he rotates his hips well, and he the Mel Kipers and you know what I mean.
That's great. I'll tell you, he's got a great hip rotation, man. He can really get out there and turn around and get them down, run down the sideline with these receivers and blah blah blah.
Hip rotation. That was another one. Yeah.
Hip rotation. Yeah.
And, every year there's like a catchword, like you fly around and make plays, or you know what I mean. Like that was one year. That was he flies around and makes plays, like he has a jetpack on his back or something like that. It's all the draft stuff. It's funny. It's interesting. You've got to fill so much time. Can you imagine filling 6.5 hours on that last day of the draft, Jim? It's, I mean, you have a lot of picks, but it's still, one of those exercises in labor and stamina to be able to be on the air for 6.5 hours, right?
Yeah, but that has become a business of itself. We talked about that. I mean, that thing is just a booming big show, and it's just everything about it has become gigantic. But Indiana baseball, they've jumped to first in the league, the Big Ten. They're trying to get to the NCAA. You think they're going to make it in, man? It's a tight race. They get the series win over Iowa this past weekend. It's going to be tight, man. Tight.
They're hitting. Look at the run production. How about that? 12 runs in back-to-back games. So I think certainly that bodes well, Jim. The fact that they're, the bats are going, and to take 2 or 3 from an improved Iowa team, I think says a lot. But you've got some, big teams coming up on the schedule, and last 2 series on the road, right, at Michigan and at Rutgers. So it's not going to be easy, but I think it was good probably to see the bats come alive a little bit over the weekend.
Now, and when they go to Rutgers, is that the one that includes also like a 2-game set with Nebraska?
Yeah.
So they keep sneaking these Nebraska games back in. It's so funny. When they travel to Rutgers, which is next, they'll play 2 against Rutgers, but 2 against Nebraska. May 7, May 8, May 8, May 9. So they're playing wow. How about this? How about a doubleheader on a Saturday against 2 different teams?
That is a little strange. Yeah, that is some
in season. Now, that's odd. That's very strange for this level. But they're playing a doubleheader that day. They'll start off playing Rutgers, finishing up their 2-game series in the morning, and then late in the afternoon they take her on with Rutgers and to get series into the next day. And you mentioned Michigan. And then they have 2 more with Nebraska. Man, they have played Nebraska, it seems like. But they've got 2 more with Nebraska. They'll come here to couple that with another 2 games with Ohio State. That series is the one that has cost Indiana baseball right now. They lost that series, that 4-0 series, I think, and then Maryland. So there you go.
They had a 5-game losing streak right in early April.
Yeah, and 4 of those came to Ohio State, I think, though, right?
And to Ohio State, and then also had a few
lost to one of Michigan State. They lost a Sunday game, which is not a big deal usually because the Sunday games are kind of I don't want to call them throwaway games, but they go either way. But then they lost that 4-game series to Ohio State, and that hurt them. That they just couldn't get any runs going in that series. They actually got blanked in one of those games where, man, that never happens.
Yeah, but Jeff Mercer, you have to assess. I mean, they're the defending Big Ten regular season champions, so this is certainly this has been a very good hire. In terms of what he's managed to accomplish here, the program that he's built, and he's got a nice mix of players. Grant Richardson, obviously, is very very talented guy, and they're moving forward. They're moving in the right direction. They're right in the thick of it, right in the race to win a Big Ten title.
Absolutely. As they continue to do that, they've got the talent. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to things getting back. People being out at the BART and all of that. That's probably not going to happen until next season, but things seem to be heading in the right direction. Certainly hope that that's the case. But hey, and man, you keep hearing better news. I heard yesterday people were talking about potentially being able to travel abroad again by June. I'm like, oh, that means people in the stands for fall football And that's exciting with this season coming up as we continue getting closer and closer. The Rivals camp this weekend up at Ben Davis High School. The Rivals, one of only like 8 stops in the country. One of those is at Indianapolis are in Indianapolis at Ben Davis High School. So I'll be up there for that this weekend. But there will be a ton of talent there, Kevin.
Yeah. And there was a ton of talent in Fort Wayne over the weekend, right? And was certainly, a few IU targets here and there that were out there playing.
Well, we talked about Jalen Washington, and we'll talk probably more about that too here in a little bit. As Indiana, these Rivals camps, these are elite players. These are 5-star guys. These are guys that Indiana has never landed a 5-star football recruit. But once they get that first one, it's going to start it's going to continue the uptick of Indiana recruiting. Talked about this a lot, but who that first 5-star is going to be, that's going to be a thing. And that's who's the guy, who's going to be the guy, the first one. Can you imagine that's the first 5-star recruit ever in the history of a program that is right now on the rise? Someone's probably going to want to be that,
be the guy that turns around. Now, maybe it would be an in-state guy. You never know. It could be someone from the Southeast, which would be, given Tom Allen's recruiting ties in Florida and Georgia, that would be a possibility. Or even a state like Mississippi, where Grant Hurd is got a lot of recruiting ties, and Mississippi's been very good to the Gators with Ty Freifogel and Jerome Johnson. That's a fertile recruiting ground. So you might be able, to pluck a kid from one of the Southeast states. You never know.
Let's get to some tidbits. Mentioned yesterday, unfortunately, Bobby Unser died. One of the great families of auto racing in America. He raced in the Indy 500. They raced in NASCAR. Those guys, they just raced back in the day. But with Indianapolis right here upon us, sad news is Al Unser of the famed Unser family passed away yesterday. So thinking about him and that family. And it is time for the time trials and all of that for Indianapolis 500. So kind of ironic. Forrest is with us today. We've got Thursday NFL games starting on Amazon Prime. Well, what was that? Thursday night NFL games starting in 2022 will be streamed on Amazon Prime for 11 years. Are you kidding me? Wow. The constant change of American technology and the way we consume is amazing to me.
Yeah.
Alan says, good news. Wagner is not a thorn in our side at Michigan. He's going to the NBA. There's something to talk about. So, Kevin, remember that. The truth. Robert says, send me a big man next year. Now, that's the truth from down south in Evansville. Forrest is very few 5-stars in Indiana. Well, football, yeah. Let's see. The future big man in college and NBA are around 6'9" and can stretch out to the 3-point line.
That's what they're trying to turn Trace Jackson Davis into. That's what, I think that's always been the goal. And I just don't understand in 2 years why he has yet to attempt a 3-pointer because I think he's got a decent stroke. But I think they've got to continue to work with him on that. And I think Mike Woodson and the staff will do that. And I think that will help Indiana so immeasurably so much. And will help him, too, operate inside and be able to play more face up and be able to get to the basket and use his athletic gifts.
Confidence, baby, confidence. Hey, we got more coming up to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios right after this. Hey, Hoosier fans, whether you're looking for a new or it's raining out there.
I know. They're supposed to come and install a washer dryer today, so they'll get here at some point.
It's raining, man.
I wasn't going to sing that.
What's that?
I prefer it to be
That's-
raining women, you know?
Well, I would prefer it, but that ain't the song. I didn't write the song.
If we could still do real bump music, that's what I'd be coming back with next.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great walk-up music for Mr. Mike DeCourcy. It's raining men. It's raining men.
How about it's
would be
raining three? How about it's raining threes? Yeah.
Well, it's not. Unfortunately, it's not. It doesn't jive in here too well. It is raining soccer. It is Mike's favorite time. Well, no, not really. College. You follow college soccer a lot, Mike?
Just peripherally. I usually watch the Final Four if I get the opportunity.
College Cup, please, sir.
College Cup, yes.
Yeah, I'm
My
kidding.
bad. My bad.
I was so bad about that. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I was always.
Indiana kind of struggled in their first playoff game.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. I was like, whoo. But you know what? I was like, it's funny. Every time you look back on a championship teams, there's always those games that you barely get by that can change the entire outcome of everything. It happens so
Everybody
often.
acted like Baylor just went and kicked everybody's ass. They were getting their butts kicked by Villanova until they went to the matchup zone.
Yeah. I mean, these athletes aren't just standing there. These are finely tuned athletes, man. They're not just standing there waiting to get beat. And in soccer is probably like no other men's sport that you have no idea. If you don't follow that sport, you have no idea where the great teams are coming from.
Right.
They can come from a school you have never heard from. I promise you. Well, generally not never heard from probably, but well, Indiana, who'd they play? Some Brooklyn school?
St. Francis.
There you go. San Francisco of Brooklyn.
Hey, Missouri State beat Maryland the other day. Who's seen that coming?
Who'da thunk?
Wow.
All right, coming back.
Was that in the
Store
tournament?
access to your personal earnings history and benefit status. You can find out if you're eligible to receive benefits, compare retirement benefit estimates at different ages or dates, view spousal benefit estimates, and more. Plan for your future. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sillersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this Tuesday. And you know what that means? The great Mike DeCourcy joins us along with Kevin Brockway is already here. Mike, how are you, sir?
I am well, Jim. How are you?
I cannot complain. Me and Kevin just been sitting here as the rain falls and just enjoying a rainy spring day, I guess.
Well, it hasn't started to rain here in Fishers yet, but it keeps threatening to.
It's heading your
so-
way, I assure you.
It'll come, yes.
That I assure you. The college soccer season is in the tournament format now. Indiana wins their first game on PKs, no less. And we were talking in the break that soccer's for men's sports is one of those, the highest level that still has the teams that, man, you may not have heard a lot from them about stuff, but that doesn't mean anything in this sport because, man, soccer is a sport that a lot of different schools can build a great program in.
Yeah, I mean, Akron, for instance, won at least one NCAA championship, if not multiple. And Caleb Porter, the coach of those teams, has now won twice MLS Cup, once with Portland and now with Columbus, and he's now Columbus's coach. So it shows you can build at a lot of different programs. We do see, though, Indiana being one that is often in the mix. Wake Forest, Stanford, those teams tend to excel from year to year and frequently appear in the College Cup. What's interesting about this particular year is because of the pandemic, soccer season got pushed into the spring. And so although the ACC played most of their season in the fall, most of the teams out there played their seasons in the spring, which is unusual. But this is something that soccer college soccer, in a sense, has pushed for a long time. Not everyone, but there's a significant number of people in college soccer who believe that it should become a 2-semester sport. It's weakened by being rushed through in the fall, and I think they're right. I think they have a great point that college soccer would be a better enterprise for both men and women if it were a 2-semester sport where you could expand the schedule a little bit. We didn't have to squeeze it all in basically from mid-August to December. Often the championship is played in poor weather because they don't want it to be exclusively a Southern or California enterprise. I think this is an interesting experiment that the NCAA can use as a means to move toward that double semester sport for both men and women. I think it would improve the experience for college soccer players if they do that.
Let's
Not
face
only
it,
that-
Mike, you're being overshadowed by college football too, whereas now at least you have a little bit more visibility this time of year that you wouldn't have in, say, December when everyone is talking about who's going to be in the CFP playoff.
Yeah, I mean, that's always a problem for everybody being overshadowed and in the fall. And that's one of the reasons why certain schools, mostly in the South, have argued to start the college basketball season later. I believe that when you look at Indiana, when you look at Duke, or when you look at Kentucky or wherever, and you see in Kansas, you see it still sells in most areas because no one's asking you. One of the things that always made me laugh about that idea that you should start it was like, okay, it's Tuesday night and you go to Baylor. Okay, so like you can't go to a basketball game. Why? Because you're studying game film for Saturday's game. Is that why you're on Tuesday night? Really? That always kind of got me. But I do think that from the standpoint of improving the sport, college soccer is no longer the primary developer of young American talent, but it's not dead in that area. And both in terms of the ability to develop talent and the experience of the players, I think that those who have advocated for that 2-semester concept are in the right.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to Indiana is a program, obviously, that has been successful for a long time. And this is something that I think that will help other programs, but it's going to help Indiana just as well. I mean, it's not going to hurt them anymore. It may help them too. I mean, it gives them longer to develop. But I would much prefer it because I'd like to be able to go to a college cup, but I don't want to go to Philadelphia in November and
December.
I'll be honest, or whenever. I'm telling you, I'm not going. I'm not going, and I dang sure would not want to play in that. That would suck. But I mean, there's other sports that have to deal with that. But soccer is one that I don't think they should. I mean, it's mainly a warm weather sport, and it should finish warm weather. I want to see it complete as it was. I don't want to see weather change it because I've seen the Big Ten championship. When I've gone up there to cover, all of a sudden it's snowing. I'm like,
yes.
Man, this is not what soccer is supposed to be played in.
Yeah, we had it in Westfield.
Westfield, yes.
A couple of years ago, and the weather was
Yes.
horrendous. And it wasn't certainly the Big Ten's fault. I mean, they had to have it when they had it because you got to get into the tournament and all that. But you remember, the College Cup is in first week of December most years. So that tournament was being held like the first week in November, and they just caught a break. But that's much less likely to happen in April than it is in. You might get like we got today with the rain and such, but you're not going to catch too much snow in early May in regards to a soccer game. So I think I think that the women's volleyball got some nice run a couple of weeks ago. You had a really nice audience for that. It really caught some attention. I think the soccer is catching more attention. You can see, like Kevin said, you get away from football, and all of a sudden, they're into this vacuum on the sporting calendar, and it gets a little run. So I hope that the NCAA is paying attention.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as we continue to look at that. This weekend, Rivals is having a one of their 5-star camps here at Indianapolis, which that's kind of it's a big deal for these guys. This talent that's there, it's a cool opportunity. It's at Ben Davis High School. Do you ever go out and attend these things? I know that's not something that you're covering, but with it being so close and local, and the opportunity to see some of the talent.
I have on many occasions. Obviously, the pandemic impacted that, but I've been to Westfield for 2-3 tournaments since I moved here. They had one in Fishers one year that I went to and saw a bunch of players. I believe I saw Frank Jackson that year, who wound up at Duke. I think he was one of the big star players. I remember seeing him. So there have been a lot of those. And of course, back in the day when I really covered it even more closely than I do now, I used to go up to the Spiece tournament up in Fort Wayne. Indy
Spiece.
I saw D Brown there one year. This is how far we're going back. So I do, and then in the summer, I mean, I don't go to Vegas any longer. I don't get to hit it quite as hard as I used to. But I mean, again, Peach Jam has been an annual event for me. I missed, obviously, I didn't have it last year, so that's the first time I didn't spend July at the Peach Jam since probably 2010, 2011, somewhere around there.
Then we've got a lot of free agent signings, Mike, we were talking about, or even Peyton Ramsey picked up by Carolina, Walt Failure, Minnesota. A lot of names flying around yesterday. This is an opportunity for these guys. They didn't get drafted, but there are a lot of guys that can actually work themselves into a job through a free agency signing.
You know, I went through for an article that I did a week ago about the draft and how difficult it is to draft Pro Bowl players. And where do the Pro Bowl players fall? Where do they come from relative to the draft? And it's about a third of them, I believe, 40% are first rounders. Almost all of them are off the board by the end of the third round. It's very rare beyond that. And when it happens, probably about a third of the time that it happens in the fifth round or later, it's a Pro Bowl play. It's a special teams player, long snapper, kick returner, punter, kicker. A lot of the late round Pro Bowl players come in those areas. It's pretty rare for a fifth or sixth or seventh rounder to become a Pro Bowl level player. I honestly think, and I didn't get the time to look at this, but as I was doing it, I noticed, like at the bottom of the list, you'd have the undrafted free agent Pro Bowlers. I think there are more of those than there are seventh rounders, because I think the opportunity to pick your spot, go where you're needed, I think that helps. And I would say that it probably doesn't hurt to have that extra level of motivation. You don't think I can play? Ramon Foster started something like 8 years for the Steelers at left guard, undrafted. That happens. And now he was
a long time, 8 years.
Superstar, but I mean, he was a lineup regular. But it happens, I'm telling you, a lot of times that guys who are undrafted will end up as Pro Bowl players because they have that window to choose where they want to go and be where they want to be. And I don't think there's any question. I mean, Cole Beasley was an All-Pro last year, and with the Dallas Cowboys, and that's where he originally signed. He was a wide receiver from SMU, and he was drafted. I mean, he was undrafted in 2012. And look at him now. I mean, he's a terrific player. So those kinds of things happen with guys who are not selected.
It brings up someone, I didn't even think about it that way, but also it gives you an opportunity to think about where your skills may better fit a system.
Yes.
Someone like Walt Failure, who was kind of a limited skill set. He's only going to work with a team that can use that slot guy, and maybe that's Minnesota, obviously, whom he signed with. But yeah, I didn't really think about it that way. But yeah, you can really shop your talents a lot better when you can do it that way.
No question. And sometimes it takes multiple times too. I mean, James Harrison, who was a All-Pro for the Steelers, was an undrafted free agent, and he was, I believe, if I remember correctly, he was by the Steelers cut, signed by the Ravens cut, came back and ended up being the defensive player of the year in 2008. So it happens even for guys who take multiple swings at the plate. It can, being undrafted in the NFL is not the end of the road. There are still opportunities if you have the ability and the desire. And the desire is a big element of being a successful NFL player because it is a hard game to play. And you may just not want to do it anymore. Very good, very talented players whose performance has shown they really don't want to do it anymore. Who they maybe perform and then decide they don't want to do it anymore and retire at 26 or 27. It happens on many occasions. It's a very difficult game to play. Some people will supersede that and become successful pro players because they love the game. They love to play it. And others will fail because they don't, because it's hard and they just don't enjoy it any longer.
I think that's the number one question you see talent evaluators ask during the draft process is, how much do you love football? That's like the one question, because like you said, it is so hard to play and it takes someone to be so passionate about the game and about your craft to be able to continue going and dealing with all the contact and all the physicality that the game, presents.
And Kevin, I think that in addition to asking the question, just about everybody's going to say, "Oh, I love it," because you get that, you get that first or second round money, and even if you don't want to hang around that long, you play 3-4 years, you get your way through it, and it sets you up to start your life well. Whereas if you ask around, how much does he love it? How, or you scout it yourself. You watch and you can see who is out there really because they want to be, and who's out there because they're big and strong, and there's a practical use for it that you can get a college education or you can make some money in the NFL even if you really aren't passionate about it. I think that's something that the best teams and the best scouts understand and are able to evaluate.
Basketball recruiting, Indiana still, it's been a quiet recruiting time for Indiana, and I keep hearing a lot of guards. There's a lot of guard play. We don't know. They've not been a lot of talk from the staff about what their style is going to be. I think we're kind of guessing from the talent that we're seeing kind of going in and coming out. It's going to be a much more up-tempo style of play for Indiana basketball, it looks like, because it seems like they are really going to be more reliant on getting up and down the floor, being able to create plays from the personnel that they're adding and not adding, I guess I should say.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they'll probably play a little bit quicker, but college basketball generally tends to settle into a certain range. It's hard to be a full-time, fast-breaking outfit, and it doesn't play like that in the NFL anymore. I think that what you'll see from Mike Woodson, because he's played because he's played and coached in the NBA, but especially the years he's coached, what the NBA understands better than anyone is how important space is on the floor. And that's what we've talked about before Indiana lacked. And I don't think there's any question that whatever they go out and get over the course of the next year, they're going to get players who have more varied offensive skills than the group that will ultimately be replacing. They had a number of players whose skill set was not conducive to playing a wider game. They needed to play compact because that was where they were effective. And I think that you'll see over the course of the next year them getting more players who have the ability to play away from the goal, to play that stretch game, because that's where the game is gone. That's where basketball is now. How did Baylor win an NCAA championship? They won it because they stretched teams with their three-point shooting beyond the breaking point. That's how they were able to win. They won with a 6'4" power forward and a 6'9" center who you couldn't throw the ball to. That's the reality. That's how they won. Their three guards kept the floor stretched, and so defenses struggled to contain The bounce, because there was so much space, and they struggled to contain, to stay with 3-point shooters. I mean, we talked before, way back when the game was played, about that first defensive possession for Gonzaga of the second half. How Jared Butler just kept, when after it went badly for the first 30 seconds, and Baylor was fortunate to get an offensive rebound, and then it was going badly for the next 20. And Jared Butler just said, you know what? I'm just going to keep backing up until you can't go with me any longer, and I'll shoot it from there. He shot it in, and the game was pretty much over at that point. That's something that I think Indiana will aspire to, because they see that having that ability to stretch the floor ultimately makes you a dynamic team. The team that won the Big Ten this year, Michigan, they stretched the floor with all five of their four of their five players. Hunter Dickinson was the only one who played close to the goal most of the time. And that's what you need to be in order to be successful in the NBA. And I think that Indiana's advantage, that the state of Indiana continues to turn out really gifted offensive basketball players who have great skill, who are taught how to have great skill, and are taught to understand the game at a pretty high level relative to leaving high school. So I think that they need to be maybe selective and not have to recruit exclusively in Indiana and get the best of the Indiana players that they have access to. But I think that's, I think they'll have a really good plan. They've hired a great staff to put that together, and I think you'll see them go in those directions.
Hey, Mike, on the subject of Michigan, Franz Wagner just announced he's declaring for the NBA draft. Not a big. What do you think this means for Hunter Dickinson and Livers as well?
Well, I think Hunter will be back. I mean, again, he's a player who his skill set is not in great demand in the NBA. So, I mean, if he wants to play in Spain or something, I mean, okay. But until he shows that he can play away from the basket more, it's going to be hard for him to get a big job in the NBA. And now, if he gets a little older and gets a little more physically mature, and again, but he has to show that he can guard away from the basket. And I think that takes time to learn. I suspect, Isaiah Livers has played a lot of college basketball, and he's not played a lot of college basketball, if you know what I mean. He's been hurt so many times. It's hard for me to see him going back for another year when every year he goes back, he gets hurt again. And does he want to put that, if you're going to get hurt, you might as well do it on somebody's dime, so to speak. Be paid for that. And I'm not saying he's fated to be hurt, but if that's going to be the risk, you certainly want to be doing that in a circumstance where you're earning a living, so to speak. So I'd be surprised if he goes back. I'm disappointed relative to Franz, because I think Franz Wagner is a lottery pick when he can shoot. He can't shoot right now. I don't think you go in with his skill set as a 31% shooter and you're a lottery pick. I don't see that happening. I think he'll be undervalued in the draft because of that. And I think he's missing an opportunity. I think the model for Franz Wagner is Ayo Dosunmu. Ayo went back to Illinois this year with two missions. One, to be as successful as possible on his team. He was certainly a team player. But individually, he needed to be a 40% three-point shooter. At a 40% rate, he's going to be fully valued as a prospect, and he will be, and he'll be drafted in a fairly prominent position. I think Wagner will be taken. I wouldn't be surprised if he's taken in the first round, but I think it'll be late. And so I think he'll end up playing for less money in the short run than he ordinarily would. And I don't mean just year one. I mean, like, once you set yourself in a certain window, you can't make up the money that you lose. And I know people say, well, yeah, but you're making money now, but you don't make up the lost money. You're playing for less, so you're playing for less for a while. And, maybe if all of a sudden he learns to shoot at the NBA level, then he can cash in on his second deal. But that second deal doesn't come till like year 5 or 6. So he's going to be playing for less money than he's worth for really if I'm right, and he's selected in the first round, for the first 4 or 5 years of his career.
Yeah, and we don't know what the Big Ten is going to look like next year either. That's going to be it was what it was this year, and then turned out to not be. But no idea what it's going to look like next year. People don't even know what their teams are going to look like. How do you recruit 2 years out? You can't. It's hard to even. You can't. No longer can you plan your team. You used to be able to, like you would plan your scholarships. That's kind of out the window. You can barely plan a year out. I don't like Indiana. I don't know who will be here next year and who will not be here. Got a pretty good idea who won't be, but there's probably 3 guys that won't be here that I have no clue about right now.
To an extent, it is a aid to colleges now that basketball has gone toward this positionless concept, because basically now if you have a recruiting board, you can organize it if you want into power forward, small forward, shooting guard, whatever, just so you have a general idea of what you have and what's out there. But you don't really need to. You need a bigs, wings, and a point guard. And so you always got to make sure that you've got either, on your roster or in the pipeline. If you don't have a point guard, you're struggling. It's really hard to run anything without a point guard. And you certainly want to have size so you don't get overwhelmed inside. But even that, like I said, with Baylor, they had good size, but they didn't have functional size. They didn't get a lot out of throwing the ball inside or anything. So it's just having big bodies that are athletic and will work hard and are reasonably dynamic so they can guard. But the main thing is that you have to know what's out there, not only in the high school ranks. You have to know what's out there on every college team, who might be mobile. And it's hard to predict who might be mobile. There's a guy named Quincy Guerrier for Syracuse, who was a very important player for Syracuse, who got every opportunity, and he's leaving anyway. So you have to know the buzz. Whether somebody in his AAU program or high school or whatever, you have to know the buzz as well as what's logical. This guy's not getting run at this school. I think he can play for us. Let's be aware, and let's make sure we know that his AAU coach knows that if he gets unhappy, then there's a place for him here. Those kinds of things you have to be fully aware of, and you have to tread that line in terms of not tampering, but not being caught flat-footed. It's a really delicate. The gray area is grayer than my shirt. It's really hard to know what's fair in love and war now, because I don't think it's unreasonable if you're a program. Let's say you're a mid-major program in the MAC or something, and there's somebody at a high major program or somewhere in the American or somewhere like that can play for you. But this isn't getting any time where he is. It's hard to say to that school that it's unreasonable to make sure that his AAU coach knows that you like him. I just don't think that's unfair.
I agree, Mike. What do you have coming up next? Are you on vacation yet? You getting on?
Actually, we just got back from a weekend in Pittsburgh where we saw my great niece and got to babysit. That was an adventure. So we did a little bit of that and ate too much Pittsburgh food. So what I should get next is I should be out on the treadmill for the next week and a half after all the Pittsburgh Permanis and such that I ate. I am working on an interview that I did a while back with Kevin Warren, a long interview, and it was done at the eve of March, so no time to go through that at that point. But I am going to pick through that interview, and I'll probably have something along those lines by the end of this week, early next week.
Make sure you keep an eye out for that at TSN Mike with the sporting news. Mike, I cannot thank you enough, brother. Looking forward
Thanks,
to it.
Jim.
Again
Thanks, Kevin.
week.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Ours it is. Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News, BTN and Fox joining us here on this Tuesday as he does each week. We'll be back with more with Kevin right after this from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios.
Thinking about retirement? Make sure.
Boom. Easy and easy out. Does his mic sound funny to you, John?
Mike's mic?
Yes.
Yeah, it sounded like it was
Cutting
off
in and
today.
out.
But it wasn't
was
like
cutting it out.
unlistenable. It wasn't unlistenable, however you say that.
No, it wasn't unlistenable. It was just different. Cut in and out, kind of.
That's weird. I hadn't done that before.
Cool. Man, the Pacers have either score 1,000 points or they give up 1,000 points. Let's see, I can go back to Friday, April 18th. They gave up 129. Well, let's skip that one. Starting on April 25th, they score 130 against the Magic. The next game, they give up 130. The next game, they give up 130. The next game, they score 152. The next game, they score 140, but give up 154. That's almost 300 points in that game, dude. That's not even an overtime game.
What was their field goal percentage when they gave up 154 points?
Well, that was last night. Hell, okay, in back-to-back games, they have scored 152 and given up 154.
I don't even
They've scored 306 points in their last two games.
You know who's coming to town on Thursday? The Atlanta Hawks, coached by Nate.
Oh,
The Atlanta Hawks, coached by Nate McMillan.
Santa Claus is coming. Yeah, but these problems have nothing to do with the coach.
30.
These problems have nothing to do with the coach. These problems they're having right now have nothing to do with the coach.
What do they have to do with them?
Well, the injuries they went through all year. They get Sabonis back.
They went through a lot of injuries, but Bjorkgren is a nice guy. He doesn't demand anything. McMillan at least demanded that they play a little defense. That's the issue. And the same thing with Atlanta. Like Atlanta was not playing any defense, and Nate McMillan went there, and I'm telling you.
Coming back.
Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. For deals like this, how about a new 2020 Honda Civic LX front-wheel drive lease for just $180 a month, or a new 2021 Honda Accord LX front-wheel drive lease for just $270 a month. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this Tuesday. It's a rainy Tuesday, but that's okay. Into a life, a little rain, to each life, a little rain must fall. Yeah, we get those golf courses greened up, the flowers popping up, all the people putting out their gardens and all that. Hope you've got a good week planned. You ready for Indy? Indy's coming up. We just had the Kentucky Derby, which to this point, I think, is the largest spectator event. I can't remember what they have, like 50-something thousand maybe.
What about Bob Baffert doing it again, huh?
That was nuts. Well, that horse, that was a great race. That was a fun race to watch.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was probably his most unlikely winner. So funny. He's married Jill, who he's married to, I worked with at WLKY in Louisville. She used to be a morning news anchor at WLKY in Louisville, at the CBS in Louisville. That's how they met. But you can see he's trying to he's grooming his son. He has been for the last couple of years. Bodie, he always makes sure he's by him when he does the TV interviews. Doesn't for no reason, but you can see that he's just grooming him. Not to use no pun intended there, Kevin. Dun. Groom, get it?
That's
horse
right,
racing term.
I like that. Yeah.
Did you watch the Derby?
Yeah, no, I watched it. No, I mean, like you said, an exciting race. I mean, you're going down the stretch, and you've got four horses kind of jockeying there in that final furlong, and it was an exciting watch, and it was certainly great to see. One of one of the best that's done it. Win another crown there.
Yeah, just fun times. The spring season continues to bring some different sports to us. And what we've talked earlier, one that's going to bring is the college soccer. And I so much more like watching this in warm weather. I don't care if it rains. It's okay if it rains and it's 70 degrees as opposed to raining and 32 degrees. But, yeah, I think it's going to make the sport so much better. So much more fun, but I think it also opens the sport to other teams. Because if you look, those East Coast, West Coast teams, not a lot inside. Ironically, the three-headed monster of Indiana, Louisville, and Kentucky, just like basketball, and North Carolina, Duke, and down there, it's the same. It's a weird basketball, soccer kind of a meet there because Louisville, Kentucky, and Indiana, all three, both good soccer programs. Louisville and Kentucky obviously have elevated theirs. Indiana has been great for a long time, but and they match the three basketball programs. So kind of ironic.
Yeah, they don't. I don't think they play really much men's soccer at all in the SEC. They play a lot of women's soccer, but they don't play.
Hey, here's
men's soccer.
Do they not? Here's how much they don't. Kentucky does not belong to the SEC in soccer. I have to look it up. I think it's CUSA. I think they belong to CUSA in soccer.
Yeah,
Conference USA. That's kind of ironic.
That's like Notre Dame belonging to the Big Ten in hockey. You have these kind of weird entanglements. But, Todd Yeagley has his work cut out for him, I think, because they did look a little flat there in that game. They were outshot in the second half. I mean, they were holding on to dear life there in that game. But the goalkeeper, Roman Solentano, anytime you have him behind the net in a PK situation,
he's a Hoover vacuum, baby.
You got to feel pretty good. And, that was my sport in high school. I was a soccer goalie. And you are taught on PKs, you are taught you have to read the hips and you just get strung to one side. That's like the key to everything.
Yes. Yeah. So I always told Kylie, I'm like, you got to guess. I said, take your best guess as long as you can, but you've got to just, you can't read and then go. You have to, but he has been a master. This is not their first PK situation. They won, I think it was the conference championship. On PKs. And it's something Indiana continues to produce that level of talent at. Yeah, dude. I mean,
here's the other thing too. He's 6'3". He covers a lot of. Todd Yeagley was talking about that. He's got a really good goalkeeper's build. I'm 5'10". Maybe if you stretch me out a little bit, that's a lot harder to go back on the high ones. 5'10". I learned in my high school career. It would have been nice to have a few extra inches. But the reason why I went from JV and varsity was that I think I spread it up from 5'3" to 5'10". Between my sophomore and my junior year, but nice how that size. Getting back to Celentano, 6'3", that's a really good size for a goalkeeper.
Well, yeah, you got, and then you don't even know what his reach might be. I mean, because the reach is
wingspan. Yep.
Yeah, it changes everything, and because you had guys like Jordan Geronimo. He's 6'6", but he's got like a 7-foot wingspan. I mean. Jordan Geronimo could be a goalie, just stand in the middle.
Yeah.
He just take a step either side. Yeah. He doesn't have to guess as much, but Major League
getting back to your point about playing up tempo too with Indiana, and Mike didn't touch on this with Baylor, but you want to know what Baylor did in that championship game and throughout that tournament? You get in transition through your defense, points off turnovers, creating, and that's. What Indiana really under Archie never really did. They never, because they played that pack line. They never got out on the ball. They never. Yeah. How many times did you see runouts over the last 2 years? I mean, never. And or him throwing a press here or there, do something a little different.
Yeah, we could.
And that was from my years of covering Florida, Billy Donovan and even Mike White. I mean, they made it, that was their bread and butter, was just getting those easy baskets because it's so hard to score in half court. Get out there and create offense off your defense. And that's what Baylor did effectively in winning a national championship as well. They were such a good defensive team, and on the ball defensive team, and that's what Indiana needs to get back to, in my opinion. And that helps you when you have an offensive team that has limitations. If you can get those easy baskets, those runouts, and turn teams over, that goes a long way on the scoreboard.
Yeah, but also another thing, they had size and they had experience. They were not a young team. Those guys had experience, and they were dominant. Defensively, they were dominant. They were fast and big, and they were good shooters, and they were efficient. It was a good team put together. Hey, we've got more coming up. Chronic Hoosier is up next on this Tuesday. As always, we'll get back to talking more about hoops. And where are my Reds now? Are they still in last place, man? They went from first to worst. Gee whiz. But more Indiana talk. Craig Hoosier joins us next from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on Indiana Sports Beat right after this. Hey, Hoosier fans, whether you're looking for – what are my Reds doing, man?
Now, I haven't heard from Chronic, but I have let him know what time. He usually asks what time, but he didn't ask me this morning. I just sent it to him.
He's generally been on at 10 every week.
Yep.
Man, oh, look out. The Reds made a move. They're in the middle of the pack. They're only 3 games back.
So the Mets fired their hitting coach.
Oh, I should have pulled this up before. They're a game in front of Mike DeCourcy, a game and a half in front of the Pittsburgh Pirates, baby.
There's Chronic.
What up?
What's going on?
You know it, man. You know it. How's life there?
Oh, just living the dream, brother.
What?
How's the dog?
The dog is good. He is he's
Oh, yeah.
back on, which is a good thing now.
You got to give him shots every day?
Twice a day for the rest of his dumbass life.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Nope. Now, I'll tell you what, I did not realize this. I'd read about it, but so Walmart has their own version of insulin now available. It's $24 a bottle. We go through like 2 bottles a month. Prior to that introduction of their product, it was $120 a bottle, which is just insane to me. Yeah, and it's like little crap.
Now, is this the same thing that can be used on humans?
It's human insulin. Yeah. Yep.
See, hadn't that been a discussion? Insulin, the cost of insulin. Well,
yeah,
because I don't have diabetes as of now, but
yeah, people are dying because they can't afford it. They have to pick food, rent, or their drugs, their insulin, and it's crazy talk. But it's literally like a little crack vial. It's the smallest little thing you've ever seen, but it is what it is. I'm just, the biggest thing for us is just pain in the butt, having to give him a shot in the butt every day. But you put a bowl of food in front of him, you could probably stick a log up his ass and he wouldn't notice.
All right, we're coming back.
Thinking about retirement? Make sure a My Social Security account is a part of your plan. A My Social Security account gives you secure access to your personal earnings history and benefit status. You can find out if you're eligible to receive benefits, compare retirement benefit estimates at different ages or dates, view spousal benefit estimates, and more. Plan for your future. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sillersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this Tuesday. Chronic Hoosier joining us. Brought to you by Andy Moore Honda, Bloomington. How are you, sir?
Doing excellent, man. Doing well. Excitedly entering the final week of school here at IU. We were out this weekend with the kids. My wife was out of town, So we went down to Kirkwood to go grab some dinner, and it was nuts. It felt somewhere like graduation after a big win, maybe. I mean, town was just bustling, and kids were starting to complain, which is their right as cutters to do, that, you can't park, you can't get a table. And I'm like, wait a minute, you got one more week of this, and it's officially B-Town summer. So we are anxious for its arrival.
Gonzaga UCLA working on an epic rematch. I just saw. Yeah, it is that time. Unfortunately, normally this would be the time that folks would be trekking from Evansville up I-69, down from Fort Wayne, up from the Knobs, coming from Kokomo for the Little 500 to be coming up. But unfortunately, that is not going to be a spectator event this year.
Yeah, we're a couple weeks past its normal slot. It certainly feels like Little 5 weather outside, but this year they have decided to kind of balance it. The race will still go on. There just won't be any fans or supporters in the stands. And kind of like baseball, it's going to be one of those events that lingers long after the academic year is concluded. So, happy that the kids get to compete in it. It's always a tough loss for the town that's lost a lot of that event revenue. That's the world's largest, the greatest college weekend. We just won't see that huge boom economically as everybody descends in town to revel in the good times. But, like we said previously, I'm happy for the riders. There's a lot of kids that are, just normal everyday students that put in an extraordinary amount of work, not unlike a lot of the student athletes here on campus to compete in that race. So I'm glad they get the payoff this year for that.
I would put up, though, Kevin not being – I'm not from here, but I went to school here, and Kevin not having as much. But the Little 5, would you equate that to, say, 3 home football games of impact on Bloomington?
Probably so economically. Reports were always kind of mushy, but I had heard previously that town's population virtually doubles during that time.
Oh, yeah.
It's just absolutely extraordinary, the number of people that come into town to celebrate. Often for the entire weekend. And, that's a huge economic hit to all the restaurants, the hotels, the entire hospitality sector across the board, basically, but also the retail world, because, that spills over into a lot of different areas of town. So, for a community that's been hit pretty hard in the last year and some change now because of the pandemic, it's just yet another loss. But, the flip side is hopefully that's going to be the last big loss from an event standpoint, before things start returning to normal now.
Last week, you had some unfortunate news regarding your dog. Is now an insulin user, but you did have a good story for the medicine for that. But reminded me, Tony said he is insulin dependent, and if not for insurance, he couldn't pay for his pre-insurance. A 3-month supply gets him billed at $1,800. My God. But you were just talking about that, and so if maybe we got a community service announcement here. So
yeah, we found out the good folks at the Indy Emergency Vet Hospital, who they sent my dog to when he was on his way out. He was crashing on us pretty fast, and they had indicated that not only is his pancreas shot, and he's going to be a diabetic for life, but we'd be requiring insulin. And they had let us know that Walmart now has a product that has an insulin product that's a fraction of the cost of what it was previously. So we are, that's where we spoke last week. I was a little broke up because they weren't the best at finding that particular prescription. But no, it's, what would normally be $120 is now a $24 jar that we pick up a couple of those a month now to keep the big moose healthy and happy and eating all sorts of stupid stuff like he's known to do.
That's happy. It's what we want to hear. Let's see. The Derby happened last weekend. Let's see. A couple Fern Creek High School athletes got to meet Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, and a few other NFL players while volunteering. Yeah, those guys are always there. Their athletes always come to the Derby and hang out. That was fun to watch. But
I'm heading toward who was Tom's fashion designer? Who told him that was a good look for him? Showing up looking like
that hat.
All of it, man. He looked like a third-rate villain in some bad movie.
Yeah, I don't think he cares anymore. I forget who is. He had it may have been Tim Edelman a couple years ago that hit a big bet, but Churchill majorly overpaid him incorrectly, and he did not give the money back. It was like large, like $10,000 overpayment or something large, maybe 100. I can't remember. It was gigantic, but yeah, it's good to be those guys, man. The winners keep winning, but that was just fun stuff. But we got a lot going on in the spring. Baseball continues, soccer continues. You're a gigantic soccer fan. At the NCAA tournament underway. Indiana gets by on PKs, man.
I'll tell you what, that was just a tough game to follow. You know, Victor Becerra got IU up 1-0, and I felt like they kind of set back on their back heels for the majority of the game after that. Just didn't have a whole lot offensively that they were able to create, and you know, that team reminded me, St. Francis of Brooklyn, kind of like IU's matchup in '88 against Howard, team that had a lot of international stars that posed a lot of matchup issues for Indiana, both with their speed as well as with their length. They had some really rangy guys out on the pitch, and it burned Indiana. You know, their speedster got a breakaway and was able to sneak one by Roman Celentano. Anybody on the broadcast listening, it's pronounced Celentano. It's pretty easy to pronounce, and it's pretty easy to repeat the proper pronunciation.
How are they saying it? How are they saying it incorrectly?
Man, I can't even tell you. They never said the same twice, and it was
that one just flows to me so easy. That's just Celentano. It's just easy.
You know, maybe we just watched too much Breaking Away, but you know, it was brutal. It was brutal to watch the broadcast because Roman just played out of his mind. And they literally never once pronounced his name correctly. And every time they tried to say it, they said a different version of it incorrectly. But just like we saw in the Big Ten tournament finals, though, it ended up going to penalty kicks. 2 overtime periods weren't enough to settle it. And Celentano just absolutely dominated the opposition in that one. In 2 games now, they've gone to consecutive shootouts. He's faced 9 kickers. Only 3 have scored against him. It's absurd how good he is in the net. He's just got great speed. He's just intuitive. He's a really smart technical keeper. But I think more than anything else, and this is a school that's seen some amazing goalkeepers, you know, most recently Trey Muse, but you go all the way back. Indiana is always strong in the net. He's just one of the fiercest competitors, position independent. He is just an absolute beast on the pitch. Refused to let his team lose, and they banked on that now for back-to-back games. But at the end of the day, man, you know, it's not a beauty contest. It's a single elimination tournament. So it doesn't matter how you move on. The key is they got the W, and they will play Marquette here, I believe, this Thursday in the NCAA third round. Everything's now moving over to Cary, North Carolina, where the NCAA is effectively bubbling up the teams, keeping them all in one town for the remainder of the tournament now. So it's been a weird year for the soccer boys, but they keep on rolling, and hopefully they can find some offense now. They had some key losses coming out of the Big Ten tournament. Red card took out our center back Spencer Glass. But he'll return to play now and hopefully allow them to be a little bit more creative as they get the ball forward.
ESPN's college football post-spring top 25 power rankings out, boys. Kevin Brockway with us as well. I bring that up because I'm going to drop down to 14, and that's where the Iowa Hawkeyes are. At number 14, as I move up, you see Notre Dame's at 12. There's the Indiana Hoosiers at number 11. And then I move up a little further, and then you've got the Cincinnati Bearcats at number 9. So there's 2 out of 3 of Indiana's first 3 football games next season. Man, you think we're going to have some excitement rolling around here in August?
I tell you what, we are. I don't know if anybody's aware. We are exactly 4 months away from the season kicking off now against Iowa, and my guess is that is fresh on everybody's mind here on campus. The staff, the players, the coaches. It's going to be a huge year for Indiana. You know, I think folks that followed them have seen them rise. Nationally, I think we've kind of seen the tides turn a little bit, where people are starting to take the program seriously and recognizing, what Tom Allen's been able to build here. But this will be the first year where the surprise is out the window at this point. IU is a known quantity. I don't think they're going to sneak past anybody getting overlooked on the calendar when you see the Hoosiers coming up. But it's the Gary Barta Bowl here to start it off, and then I absolutely love the matchup against Cincinnati thereafter.
Yeah, and expectations. I mean, I think they handled expectations well last year, but I think this is even because I don't think they were preseason top 25 even last year. This year is different.
Hell no.
Maybe even a different.
They've never. I don't know that they've ever been preseason top 25. You'd have to go back to the 60s.
And handling that, and then obviously, of course, the clock ticking on Michael Penix too. But Nick Sheridan seemed to have some good news on that front last week, talking about a chance of him throwing by the summer a little bit with some receivers in a modified way.
Yeah, that opening game, though, I mean, Chronic, you look at the opportunity Indiana has. First of all, you go on the road, and if you beat a top 15 Iowa team, man, that just is going to set off a keg of dynamite. And then you have the opportunity to come home to take on a top 10 Cincinnati team. This is uncharted territory for Indiana football. Uncharted territory. I mean, you can go back to the 60s. I don't care. It doesn't count. You did not have all these TV and social media and the awareness and every single person knowing every single minute who's good. This is just new ground for this athletics program.
In my lifetime, the benchmark has always been the Bill Mallory era, especially the Apex, their late 80s, early 90s. It was a program that was pretty widely respected among the conference, among the country, regular bowl attendees. And we've always kind of benchmarked where the program is based off that. Part of it's the proximity, contemporaneously at least. That's the most recent we've seen Indiana's success, but it was probably the most durable, sustained success the program's ever enjoyed. What you're seeing now is probably far beyond that. I mean, quite honestly, because when you're talking about top 10 rankings, there was a novelty where a lot of the national media, look at guys like Spencer Hall, just really reveled in the fact that all of a sudden Indiana's good this one year, assuming it would be a flash in the pan. Well, as luck would have it, that's probably not the case now. A lot of that may still depend on their fitness at the quarterback position, but this is a new normal. And this is what Tom Allen preached to the team, that locker room, when he first met with them, and went through his beliefs and his goals for the program. I don't know that anybody really believed it outside of that locker room, but it's been amazing to watch how that belief has spread, and now the recognition that's following it. They are legitimately a top 10 program now in back-to-back seasons, and the expectation, as Kevin mentioned, I think is going to be absolutely critical for them to manage, because just think how tremendously more difficult it's going to be if you lay an egg that first game, just completely take the wind out of their sails. Whereas the inverse is true as well. If you're able to win one on the road at Iowa and then turn around against another top 10 opponent in Cincinnati, I mean, what type of momentum could that give this program heading into the meat of the Big Ten season, where they legitimately hope to contend for a Big Ten title and to be Big Ten East champions? And it's still almost have to pinch yourselves when you say statements like that in regards to Indiana football, but that's who they are, and that's where we are in this day and age right now. And I cannot wait to get back into Memorial and share in it in person.
Absolutely. John threw up the Tom Brady. He looks more like John Dillinger there on the picture. John's got up from Saturday at the Derby. He's got like a John Dillinger look. But nice look for him, man. Yeah, but man, appreciate you. What's coming up next for you?
V-Town summer, man. That's all. Look, we got one more week left, and the town's going to vacate. Be curious to see what it looks like, because with so few kids that were back permanently this semester, I'll be real fascinated to see what the town's composition looks like as we head into summer session and things start to trend back towards normal. But I'm fully looking forward to getting down your neck of the woods, back out on the lake here. getting out and about and really just taking in all this town has to offer. Once it loosens up a little bit, once we get to put the shorts and the sandals back on, and patio season officially takes over.
Sounds like a glorious time, Chronic Hoosier. He's got the menu for us, man. We appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. We'll catch you guys next week.
You bet. Chronic Hoosier joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat. We're back with more with Kevin Brockway to see what he's up to right after this from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Hey, Hoosier fans, whether you're looking for a new... Yeah, boys.
Yeah, boys. So yeah, your buddy was a trip. The guy that works at Annie Moore Honda. What's his name? That you introduced me to?
Adam.
Yeah, Adam. Yeah, he's an interesting guy. Adam York. Yeah, get a lot of stories.
That he does. That
Yeah.
he do.
And then my other buddy Adam stopped by for the draft, and Lisa stopped by. We had a good time.
So you have the two Adams.
Yes. And I watched the Jets take Zach Wilson.
The Jets, the Mets, or the Nets?
Could play for the Jets, could play for the Mets, could play for the Nets.
All right, what is this here? Ding, ding.
So what is that thing at Ben Davis High School on Saturday? Is it like an all-day thing?
I think it's Saturday and Sunday. It's like a big-time five-star thing.
Is Leland Walker going to be there?
This is football, brother.
Oh, football, not basketball.
Yeah.
Because when you asked DeCourcy about it,
Yeah, I know.
It made it sound like it was basketball.
Well, no, I didn't make it sound that way. I thought he would have known about it's kind of a big deal. So I just thought he knew what it was. But, yeah.
Are there any basketball events coming up soon? Or there's the Indy All-Star?
Man, there's always basketball events. Arizona's 6'11" dude entered the portal. Next weekend is the Iverson Classic.
Did you get through to any of those guys they sent you numbers for?
Who? Players? No.
Yeah, didn't you ask me for some numbers? Yeah.
Yeah, no players.
Yeah. I tried to get Xavier Johnson too.
All right, we're coming back.
Compare retirement benefit estimates at different ages or dates. View spousal benefit estimates and more. Plan for your future. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security. Securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. It's Tuesday. Kevin Brockway is sitting in with me. Jim Coyle here. Next week is the Allen Iverson Classic. Where does that go on? Memphis. Maybe it was Memphis. That's the last major event, I think, before the final 2021 Rivals rankings as they head towards that event. So you got Monty Bates, who is decommitted from Michigan State. The first thing that came to my mind was, who was his lead recruiter? Was it Dane Fife? But, I mean, I guess you would always find room, but Indiana does not have room for another kid next year. They're already one over. But things are and will always now. I'm sure it'll change some, but it's going to be a constant. Things are going to just be constantly in flux now. With this up to even past July 1st. Your name has to be in the portal by July 1st, but that's just in there, man. You could go, gee whiz, pretty late probably without finding a team.
You have to think that if Trace Jackson Davis has a good year next year, he'll go pro. And,
oh yeah, of course.
So I mean that'll free up something, and you've got I think plenty of other. There's always going to be attrition every year with regards to guys. So I think overcommitting for a year is. Well, what do you make of Leland Walker?
Well, I haven't got to see him play yet personally, but I know he had a great weekend this weekend. Didn't he score like 17 in a game?
Yeah. Combo guy from Indianapolis, a 3-star. I know Indiana's kind of looking at him a little bit, but it'll be like I said, 2022. It's you've already got CJ Gunn, I guess CJ Gunn didn't play. He had like an ankle issue. He didn't play up in Fort Wayne, and I wonder if he's going to play in the Indiana All Stars. That'll be which will be coming up in June. That will be certainly interesting as they look to continue their mastery over Kentucky, right? Does Kentucky really take it seriously, you think, or no? As seriously as Indiana does? The All-Star game?
Of course. They can act like they don't because they get their butt kicked every year. But, yes, I mean, if you don't, then I doubt your credentials as an athlete. You should take everything seriously. Every competition you enter, you better be taking seriously. I promise you, Indiana wants to kick their butt. So, yeah. You have to, because the other team wants to beat your behind.
No, I know
Kyle Tucker. They don't have the talent that Indiana has. It's just
Kyle Tucker has raised that point on Twitter that and he covers Kentucky. So, but that's maybe that's a little bit of a homer take, and I like Kyle.
It's an excuse. Of course, it's an excuse. Don't take it seriously. Ask those athletes if they take it seriously. I guarantee you, yeah. But I was talking about. The rapper Tamar Bates is the name. Oh, he's entering the top 35. You talk about guys moving up on rivals. For starters, Bates had a heck of a senior season at IMG. Another lefty on Indiana. Another lefty for Indiana. Shooting
great
wing, great length, position, size. He's got a great shooting touch. So man, that's a good piece that Mike Woodson has added in that for Indiana.
And wants to play defense too. He takes pride in his defense. And as I was discussing before, you get a guard like that, and Dane Fife was talking about that with Rob Finney. You get a guard like that on the point of attack, someone that goes out there and really gets after guys and gets in guys' faces. And just disrupts you from what you're doing, because it's, so much of the Big Ten too is about scoring in the half court. And so many times, how many times did we see with the pack line? It just was too easy for other teams to operate against it for whatever reason. Particularly this past year, it was, I want someone that's in guys' faces, man. That's how you play basketball, right?
Yep. You mentioned
make the opposing team uncomfortable. Make the opposing guards uncomfortable.
Trace Jackson Davis putting the eyes on his Instagram on Bates decommitting. Yeah. I guess I'll just leave that one alone. You mentioned Leland Walker. He continues to put up big scoring numbers this spring. Did so again over the weekend. His name continues to rise. He's a little undersized. But DePaul, Xavier, Providence, IU has not offered. They've shown interest. He's a 5'10", just a smaller guard. And I'm not sure see him going in that direction, but I'll tell you a name that you better keep listening is Leon Bond. And he's on JH1. That's Jordan Hall's deal up in Wisconsin. And he is one of the more improving players in the class over the last year. He's a big weekend last weekend. He's a 6'5" wing, got a great athleticism, and his name is starting to grow, Kevin.
It's amazing how these, former players are getting into the grassroots game, right? You got Jordan Hulls, you got Bradley Beal, who I covered at Florida, has a team. Bradley Beal elite, right? You've got Chandler Parsons at a team. So it will be, Yeah, no, definitely will be interesting to monitor these next couple of months, Jim, about the 2022 class and who they go after. It seems like they're targeting a lot of guards.
Well, they have. So we'll see how that turns out. Hey, 135,000 talked earlier. The Kentucky Derby has been the largest spectator event so far. That's going to be eclipsed here at the end of the month when the Indianapolis 500 is expecting to host up to 135,000. Unfortunately, if you're one of us, if we're not there, you may not get to see the race if you live here. That would just suck. But that's normally the case. It has been. But we'll see how that goes, man. Have you been to the Indy 500 yet?
I have never been, and I want to go. And it's something we've discussed that I may cover and help out with, but apparently it hasn't crystallized yet because of credential restrictions. But we'll see this year if they lift it. I mean, last year our longtime motorsports writer Ken De La Baptiste didn't even get a chance to go. So this year we'll see, what they're doing credential wise. But if it's anything like the NCAA tournament, they're just going to make it
Very
hard.
tight.
Yep. It's going to be tight. So.
Well, man, make sure you give Kevin a follow. Check out what he's got in the CNHI papers, whether you're in Anderson or Jeffersonville, New Albany area, wherever you are, is in one of those CNHI papers.
I've got something coming up on Mike Woodson, a little bit about analytics, too, about his approach and how they're going to be moving forward with, based on his NBA background, trying to use the numbers a little bit.
Absolutely. Sounds good. Look for that. We'll get that posted out as well. Give him a follow and myself as well. Give us a follow on YouTube if you have not done so. Until tomorrow, I want to thank Chronic Hoosier. Big thanks, of course, to Mike DeCourcy and Kevin Brockway, to John as well. But most importantly to you guys, without you all, we've got nothing to do here. But we'll be back to do it again tomorrow. Dylan Sin, of course, Kyle Nenrib, Bob Kravitz. We'll see what else we can get scared up, what happens in the time between now and then. Go out and make it a great day. Do something nice for somebody. Please wear your mask. And until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
All right, buddy.